Hello and welcome to our next episode of the Primis Propositions vodcast, Hear the Lion Roar. I'm Matt Brown, Head of Mortgage and Protection Proposition, and I'm joined by my colleague, Nikki Hemmings, as usual, our GI Proposition Manager. Hiya, Nikki.
Hi, Matt, and hi, everybody. And again, as Matt said, welcome to our next episode of Hear the Lion Roar.
Welcome indeed. We've got a cracking guest lined up today. So we are joined by someone from the protection space. From Guardian, we have Sam Davies, the Senior National Account Manager. Hiya, Sam. You okay?
Hi, Sam.
Very well. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me on.
Good stuff. Nice to have you, Sam. I guess we've been working with you personally since you joined Guardian. I bet it's around 12 months ago now. Have I got that right?
You have indeed. It is about a year now. Yeah, what a whirlwind it's been.
Excellent. So before we get into talking about Guardian, tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, of course. So Sam Davis. So I'm the Senior National Account Manager at Guardian. And as you said, I've been there around a year or so now. I've actually got about 15 years in financial services experience across actually private health insurance and protection as well. So my role is to sort of look after our strategic partners at Guardian, of which Primis is definitely one of our VIP networks. So thoroughly enjoyed working with you guys over the last year or so, and we've seen phenomenal year-on-year growth. So hopefully we can carry that forward as well.
Perfect. We love being VIPs, Sam. So thanks for that. So I guess moving into Guardian and some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, you are actually the first person who's ever turned up to one of our podcasts with a slide deck, which is really good, really prepared. So thank you for that. And I think the first couple of things you want to cover save me and Nikki from asking any questions. So share your screen away and share what you wanted to talk about, Sam.
Okay, so let's go. Sharing screen now. So I think what I wanted to talk about today is, and almost just kind of setting the scene, is touching on the evolution of Guardian. So touching on our quote and apply platform and the role that technology, I think, can play in making protection much more accessible, both for clients and for advisors. So I'm not going to go into loads and loads of detail. I want to be able to kind of talk about it and give you guys the opportunity to ask questions, but I'll touch on at a very kind of high level some of the sort of detail of what we're doing. We've got a wonderful team of BDMs that will go through it in the more sort of technical detail as well over the coming weeks and months. Just to begin with, a quick reminder that you're in safe hands with Guardian. We're an appointed representative of Scottish Friendly, an insurer that's been around for 160 years. And just kind of pulling this back to basics. So first of all, when we came to market in 2018, we came with a promise. So if you've ever seen a Guardian presentation before, it's very likely you'll have seen this slide. When we came to market, we made a promise that we would have a proposition that was fit for purpose, future-proofed, it had that longevity to it, and we made a promise to advisors that we would help them give the very best advice. So we came to market with a really innovative proposition and continued to innovate over the last few years. That in itself, I think, has helped create a really kind of powerful proposition that's valued by customers, and I believe helps advisors give the best advice. And going back in time a little bit, putting this into a bit of a storyline, I guess, just illustrating our journey so far, we brought the Guardian brand back to life in 2018. It's a really powerful brand, been around since 1821. We had a fantastic opportunity to bring it back to life in 2018. And with it, we introduced some market challenging USPs, some really kind of interesting concepts. That in itself clearly helps advisors give better advice through things like our crystal clear definitions, our cover upgrades, and just a few bits that are slightly different. We then introduced our accelerated life and kick policy in 2019, which now accounts for a significant part of our applications. Then fast forward to 2021, last year, we were able to give back. We introduced GP 24/7 for advisors and gave free access to all of our advisors that we use in Guardian. Quickly followed by our special offer for customers. So we're able to introduce a special offer to celebrate the brand's 200th birthday. And this year, this year is the year that we're focusing a little bit more on technology and the platforms that sit behind proposition. So our journey continues. So we now have a really high quality product. And as we evolve that proposition, as we evolve that product suite, we want to make sure that our systems are equally as high quality, making it easier for advisors to actually place business with us and to help in that discussion when you're sat in front of a customer, taking them through that protection application. Technology plays such a key role in making protection more accessible for families, and we recognize that. We've worked actually with a panel of advisors from different firms and different sectors over the last year or so, gathering insight from them on their viewpoints and on what they felt was really important to them as they went through that application journey. So that might have been advisors from an IFA background or a mortgage broker or protection specialists or wealth managers, going through this kind of different and diverse requirement set that helps us then build this platform. So that's brought us here. Protection Builder 2.0, bringing your advice to life. So really, really excited to announce the launch of this new platform. And what it means for you, what it means for advisors on a very high level is less data entry, more cover options, and faster decisions. So more intuitive system design, essentially meaning a more streamlined application journey that we believe will make writing protection with Guardian quicker, simpler, and easier. And that at a very high level is the kind of introduction into what we've brought to market this year.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing our first ever vodcast set of slides. Some great stuff on there as well. And obviously you spoke about technology quite a lot there. See, that's a big focus for you guys there at Guardian. So tell me why technology is so important in the protection world and how might it benefit a broker?
It's a great question, Nick. And I think technology plays a huge part in making protection more accessible. So when we talk about broker, I guess there's a couple of levels to that. So you've got advisor and then kind of firm level as well. So for an advisor, I think having that better technology and better platforms, it makes protection more accessible and more engaging, hopefully leading to more families being protected. But outside of that, I mean, advisors' time is precious. We're all kind of stretched and we've all got lots to do. And we wanted to create something that was seamless, clear, simple to use, ultimately driving efficiency as much as possible. So that might be in the form of giving instant decisions. So we talk about straight through processing or STP rates. So if we can give a decision straight away, great. That's much more efficient for us as a provider. It's much more efficient for advisors as well. So of course, we'd like to be able to do that. That won't always be possible. And that's where you need a really strong supporting structure, things like dashboards and supporting services that are also up to scratch. And actually things like we have a QI, which is a pre-sales tool that also has been revamped. I haven't touched on that, but that's been revamped as well. So that could also be used to help advisors. And then at firm level, what this new platform will do for us is bring some really interesting, really positive MI implications. So we can start reporting back on things like quality, things like average disclosures or straight through processing rates at firm level, and actually benchmarking that against peers. So that enables a firm to interrogate their performance and then collaborate with our wonderful team of BDMs on a contact strategy. So looking at perhaps where their strengths and weaknesses are. And then that's where it kind of means that we can do something really creative and create almost a bespoke contact strategy. So if, for example, we look at average disclosures and we see that a firm has more disclosures than usual, that's not a negative thing. That means they might specialize perhaps on impaired life cases. So we then need to give them tailored bespoke support and perhaps bring in some of our underwriting expertise to help support advisors in those cases. So it brings to life that collaboration, I guess, and making sure that all those dots are joined and you've got a lovely journey that makes it more accessible for advisors and customers.
Fantastic. I mean, That's great, and that shows how it benefits a broker. So, what sort of role do you think technology plays in good customer outcomes?
Yeah, so where we're looking at the application journey specifically, I think it can be or has been seen sometimes as quite an arduous task for customers. And we've probably all sat there and completed our own protection application. And even where you don't have any medical history to submit, there's quite a few questions, or can be quite a few questions to go through, and it can take a while. Thankfully, long gone are the days where we've got huge paper applications and sort of ticking boxes left, right, and centre. But even now, it's still a fairly involved process, especially where you've got providers that are being really smart with their pricing and are being a bit more targeted. And that can sometimes lead to more or less underwriting questions. And that's great, or that's fine, at least, if you've got a really engaged customer, they're really passionate about the product they're buying. Yeah. But that in itself is part of the challenge. How many of us have got customers that are really excited to buy protection? You know, if we're looking at the kind of mortgage world, they're there to buy a house. That's the part you get excited about. And then the protection becomes something that we want them to feel passionate about. We want them to get excited about. But then put this really long, arduous application journey in front of them and they switch off. So we need something that's going to be a bit more engaging. And that's, again, what we've tried to introduce here. Something that's a bit more intuitive, a bit more logical, a bit more engaging. Otherwise, you switch off and lose interest. And that's the part that we need to try and avoid. The danger there is if you fly through an application and you just take questions out, you start to miss things, and that doesn't lead to great outcomes for anybody. I mean, you think of then the point of claim, and you've got potential non-disclosure, and that absolutely is something we want to avoid. So that's why it's not necessarily about removing questions or kind of just bulking them all together. It's about a much more intuitive journey. It's about a much more logical journey. Mm-hmm. So we've worked really hard to put something together that makes sense, is easy to understand, and it clearly signposts where you are in the application journey. Advisors work really hard to get a customer to the point of application. We then have a key role to play in keeping that customer engaged in applying.
Cool. Couldn't agree more, Sam, particularly with that excitement piece. You know, you're absolutely right. The excitement for people are getting the keys to the door, and everything else is we have to help them understand the importance in the industry. So no, couldn't agree more with your comments there. I guess sticking on that technology point, do you think technology supports product and proposition and vice versa?
Absolutely. I think when I touched on earlier, we came to market with that innovative proposition back in 2018, and that wouldn't have been possible without the technology behind it. I think in a strange way, we were kind of lucky that we came to market in 2018 and we didn't kind of have sort of archaic systems to kind of rely on that were perhaps limiting or restricting us. We were starting almost from a blank piece of paper, which is really exciting, and we can. Both the proposition can drive the technology, and the technology available now can drive the possibilities with proposition as well. So a good example of that would be our optional children's critical illness. So this isn't built in just as a sort of rigid or a standard feature on a kick policy. It's actually an option that you can add on to any of our core products, and the sum assured is flexible as well. So it's 10,000 up to 100,000. It's also level cover. So if someone took the policy as a decreasing term, the children's critical illness remains at the same level of cover. So you think about what good customer outcomes look like and how an advisor would want to speak to a customer. You need something that is flexible, something that's adaptable, and that it's clear and simple. And I think optional children's critical illness ticks those boxes. It is simple. It is easy to understand. And that in itself is a combination of proposition and technology coming together to allow us to do that sort of thing. Another good example is our beneficiary nomination. So we call this payout planner, and that's part of the application journey. So it's almost as a sort of safety net or a fallback option if you don't have the policy written in trust. So for us, again, that's another, it just makes sense from a customer's perspective to have that available. So we've kind of built that into our journey as well.
Cool. I guess beneficiary nomination, what you just talked about there, elaborate a bit more. What do you mean?
Yeah, so beneficiary nomination, this is a really popular feature for us. So we call it payout planner, and essentially we capture the beneficiary details of a life or combined life and CI policy, so that we're able to pay claims quicker if there is no trust in place. And interesting, at the moment, around 65-70% of all of our applications will come with a beneficiary nominated on them. So you think at the moment, not as many applications as we like are placed in trust, and it's something I think that the protection market is trying to improve. But it can be complicated. It can be scary sometimes as well for customers and advisors. And we want to actually have this kind of safety net in place that's just much more simple, much more clear, and again, aligned to making protection more understandable, more accessible to customers. So having something at the end of an application that says, okay, if the worst should happen, where do you want this benefit to go? And you just name the beneficiary. So a really kind of simple, clean process.
What a great feature. I think we were kind of looking at that question, weren't we, Matt, saying we need him to elaborate on that. So yeah, what a fantastic feature. That's brilliant. So we've talked about technology and how it's impacted customers and brokers and the protection market in general become more accessible. What have you done specifically in your changes at Guardian?
So I'm just going to share my screen again with you because I have a slide ready prepared for this question as if by magic. So bear with me just a moment.
The magician, Sam Davis. There you go.
He's one I prepared earlier.
Here we go. So this is essentially how we've achieved some of that. So we have introduced improved portal integration. So that means that we'll now return quotes, including multiple variations of the same cover type. So those quotes then seamlessly carry through to our extranet and therefore the application journey. That in itself brings enhanced multi-benefit functionality. So you can now apply for up to 10 covers per person. Multi-benefit policies are becoming so popular these days, especially I think for advisors, where it allows them to really tailor protection advice for client circumstances. So that's something I think was really important to us. The flow of the application process is now flexible too. So there's a tab-based system where you can jump to direct debit details or medical history or any kind of sections that you want to, really. So we no longer dictate to the advisor how and where they fill in certain sections. The next two couple of bits are centered around our key USPs. So we've got dual life cover, which is one of our most popular benefits, effectively doubling the cover of joint life cover. More importantly, future-proofing protection. So if one person passes away, the remaining partner is still covered, and they can cancel cover at that point if they wish. But I think personally, I would argue that everybody would need some form of protection. So for me, it's just a case of future-proofing. So this improvement, when writing dual life previously, if one life was declined, but you still wanted to continue with the other, you'd have to start the application again. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we've now made it far easier to separate out the individual lives assured, that you can kind of really go through that process as nice and flexibly as you like to. Children's critical illness is then another really popular benefit. We touched on it earlier, and that's due to the sort of flexibility that it offers. We've now increased that flexibility so that you can actually add children's CI onto either of the partners. So if you're covering a family with protection from a previous marriage, you can actually add the children to a specific parent. So again, increasing the flexibility around that. We then have a section on kind of non-linear questions. So these can be found under the application tab. And you can answer those questions in any sequence, so allowing you to kind of go back and forth. And actually, the underwriting questions are much more aligned to the product you're buying as well. So where we're looking at critical illness, for example, you're looking at morbidity as well as mortality. So the question set is going to be a little bit more in depth, whereas a life-only policy, it needs to reflect risk more accurately. Previously, we'll have underwritten for the whole kind of product suite. So now it's a little bit more targeted towards the products you're buying. And then we've got a few other parts of underwriting there. So kind of just better signposting around the underwriting journey itself. So taking you through it and much clearer signposting about where you are in that journey. And again, that sort of ties in with that customer journey. So making it a much clearer process for them to go through, so you don't lose interest, you don't lose that engagement you've got from the customer. So that signposting is a really strong kind of behavioral aspect that you have to have in an application, so somebody knows where they are in there. Then other just little bits to touch on. We've got things like editing covers or editing applications post decision. So you can simply go back into applications and you can change or update an application. The premium actually gets refreshed at the same time as well. So if you wanted to add on additional underwriting disclosures, for example, after receiving a decision, simply go back into the application, update any disclosures, confirm and resubmit. And that will either go back into underwriting or you'll get an updated decision straight away with a revised price. So taking away any kind of manual aspect, helping with an advisor's audit trail, our records as well, becomes much cleaner, much simpler. And then finally, we mentioned beneficiary nomination. That was always a really key part of our proposition, but we've actually improved it a little bit further. So you can now actually automate the details. So if it's a dual life policy, it will automate the details of the other life that's in there so that we can actually kind of capture that as standard. So it just makes it much easier to insert those details rather than kind of duplicating details that you've already put in as an advisor. So again, just saving time and increasing that efficiency. So those are at a very high level some of the key enhancements. I've not gone through all of them. And I've not gone through them in any great detail because I'll save that for our BDMs to go through all the technical stuff, all the really exciting kind of updates in a bit more detail with you at kind of advisor, one-to-one or firm level.
Fantastic. I mean, obviously really embracing technology there to make to improve and enhance the protection journey. Absolutely fantastic. And as you said as well, obviously the brokers have got access to your BDMs to discuss that in more detail. So I'm sure we can share some contact details or something there at the end. If you've got any emails or anything, email addresses you can share. So we're nearing the end now, Sam. So just to wrap up then, my last question to you is, what else is to come from Guardian in the future?
Loads, Nikki, loads and loads.
Excellent.
I've sort of taken you through a bit of a timeline there. In the last 4 years, I've had an awful lot going on at Guardian. I mean, I've been there for a year, and it's been a whirlwind journey. There's been loads happening in the last year or so, and it's really exciting. We've come a long way since 2018, and a long way since August 2021. There's been so much going on, but we are always looking for ways that we can improve, that we can enhance kind of what we do, and how that looks then through the lens of an advisor, because advisors are absolutely key to what we do. We sell through advisors and they add an incredible amount of value to us as a provider and to customers and actually writing protection. So we will continue listening, continue gathering feedback, understanding what the requirements are, and helping collaborate to actually ultimately cover more families and widen that kind of protection market.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Sam. Absolutely fantastic to have you on today. I think, Guardian, I think you pointed out 2018, you made the comeback with the name and stuff. And I think you've got a really good name in the industry. So hopefully people watching this today have learned some more stuff and have, can get on board with Guardian a little bit more. So absolutely give your BDM a shout is what I recommend to everyone at the end of these vodcasts. BDMs do an absolutely amazing job, and I'm sure, Sam, they'll get out into the businesses, pick up the phone, do whatever the broker wants them to do. So let's utilize that. But look, thanks for coming on. It's been great having you on, and we will see you soon. Thank you muchly.
Thank you,
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye.